Hey there, baby squids. Welcome to another video. It is your boy, ShamWow Cube, the lovely dude, Yammy Noob. Today we're talking about 10 of the most common beginner motorcycle questions. We'll answer all of the questions you've been too afraid to ask, like why starting on a Turbo Busa is a good idea, why wearing shoes on a motorcycle is an option, and why Royal Enfield makes the fastest motorcycles money can buy. Let's go. The first question that is commonly asked by beginners is, when will my father recognize me as a man and release the stranglehold he has on my personal autonomy? Wait, that's not right. 1 second here, wrong document. Okay, here it is. The first question is, which type of motorcycle is best for me as a beginner? Well, if a Turbo Busa is a little out of your price range, here is what is commonly suggested for new riders. You don't want a bike that is too powerful. When first starting out, you want a bike that is making maybe less than 60 horsepower or so. This will vary from person to person depending on your age, maturity, and experience, so some soul searching is required. Something around 400cc or so is usually a good starting point. Think of an KTM RC 390. Oh yeah, you can enter to win that specific bike at yammynoop.co. Shameless plug there. Or a Ninja 400 or a DRZ 400. So first determine what style of bike you want, then explore options in that 50-ish horsepower realm. If you're older with some life experience under your belt, it isn't unheard to start off on something slightly bigger like an MT-07. The second thing to consider for a first motorcycle is you're going to want it to be relatively cheap. You want a cheap bike because you may drop it or crash it. You might decide you don't want to ride after all, or you might want to trade up to something bigger in a year or so. For a first motorcycle, you also don't want something too old. You want a bike that is reliable where you can spend your time riding and learning instead of wrenching and swearing. So those are the key components for a beginner bike. Not too old, cheap, and manageable power. The second common question is, how do I operate the controls on a motorcycle? Riding a motorcycle does require the manipulation of multiple controls. Both hand and both feet are working together to keep you moving, shifting gears, and stopping. This may seem daunting to noobs, but it is honestly second nature relatively quickly with patience and practice. Your left hand controls the clutch, and when the clutch is pulled in, it stops engine power from going to the rear wheel. You use the clutch when stopping and accelerating, shifting gears, and during low-speed maneuvers. Your right hand controls the throttle and the front brake. Luckily, you're not using both controls at the same time, unless you're trying to do a wicked burnout. The throttle controls the engine's power, and the front brake obviously controls the front wheel. Your left foot is used to shift up and down between gears with the gear shifter. Your right foot controls the back brake. Your front brake does a majority of the stopping power, but your rear brake supplements that and is good to use using slow speed maneuvering. There are basic controls on your handlebars to operate the turn signals, engine kill switch, starter, and headlight. Third question, what type of gear do I need while riding? If you ask a squid or a Harley rider, they'll say it is none of your business and a choice left up to them and their god. But if you ask a sane person who values human lives, they will say you need a DOT and ECE rated helmet, full face preferably, a long sleeve riding shirt or jacket that is intended for motorcycling, motorcycle gloves, and motorcycle boots. Riding pants or jeans are also a good investment for added safety. Option pieces of riding gear include assless chaps, dog collar, and ball gag. Speaking of options, have you considered your options when it comes to insurance and saving money?
Now let's be honest with ourselves, guys. Some of us don't ride as much as we'd like to. We snap up some silly bikes on Craigslist and then they end up sitting in a garage for a whole long time because guess what? You've only got the one butt you can put in a saddle at one time. So why are we paying to insure our motorcycles fully when they're just sitting there not being used? Unless maybe you're a Harley rider and the bike's just gonna lay itself down while it's in the garage. I'm not sure, but that's where Voom Insurance can come in. Voom is a pay-per-mile insurance company that's sure to save you a bunch of money if you own multiple bikes or you just don't ride as much as you'd like to. You can save up to 60% versus traditional insurance with policies as low as $50 per year. And the best part, there's no tracking hardware or software required. All you have to do is take a photo of your odometer and submit it to them. If you're a seasonal rider, a multiple bike owner, or you just don't rack up that many miles, Voom could be a great cost-saving solutions for you. Voom is only available in these current states: Arizona, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Missouri, Texas, and Tennessee. The riding season is just around the corner, so why don't you start the season off with a big savings on your insurance? Maybe you could get yourself that exhaust you've been eyeing. click the link in my description down below or in the pinned comment to get yourself a free quote. If you're a rider that lives in a colder state, you own multiple bikes, or you just don't get out and ride as much as you used to, Voom could be a great option for you. You're probably overpaying on your traditional insurance, so click the link down below and get a free quote to see if pay-per-mile insurance is right for you with Voom.
Question 4. How do I maintain a motorcycle? Maintaining a motorcycle might be a little intimidating to someone who has only owned a car where the synthetic oil, they can go like 10,000 miles between oil changes, but maintaining a motorcycle is pretty straightforward and much of it can be done yourself. It is of course important to change your motorcycle's oil. Each bike will have a specific service interval dictating that in the owner's manual, but typically if you're using synthetic oil and not riding to the tip of South America and back, changing your oil once or twice a season will usually be just fine. If your bike has a chain drive, keeping your chain clean and lubricated is essential as well. If your bike is liquid cooled and you're crushing serious miles, sooner or later you'll need to flush and replace your coolant. Again, the specific service intervals can be found in your motorcycle's manual or the handy dandy internet. It is also important to keep your tires properly inflated and be aware of your tread life. Your tires should last quite a while if you're not doing track days or burnouts behind Hooters, but it is always important to check them out frequently to make sure they are in good shape. There are other wear items that will eventually need to be replaced like brake pads or brake fluid, but beginner motorcycles are pretty low maintenance machines as their modest power isn't putting too much strain on the other components of the bike. Question 5. How do you safely navigate traffic and freeways? The biggest thing to remember here is to ride like you're invisible, meaning ride as if no other car drivers on the road can see you. Be cautious of all other vehicles, be good at predicting and preventing hazardous situations, and ride defensively. Never assume you have the right of way. Cars are big and the drivers are looking at their cell phones, so you have to do all the seeing and thinking for everyone on the road. 6. How do I turn or maneuver in tight spaces? Turning on a motorcycle at speed involves leaning and countersteering. If you're going on a road going 60 miles an hour and the road curves to the left, as you approach the curve, you'll lean to the left and gently push your handlebar to the right to initiate the lean. Your MSF instructors will teach you more about this. If you're turning sharply like at a traffic light, you'll apply the brakes and downshift as you approach the light, and if you have the right of way, you'll carry out of your turn. A 90-degree turn in city traffic is usually pretty comfortable, around 15 or 20 miles an hour in second or first gear, depending on the gearing of your motorcycle. For very tight turns and slow speed maneuvers, you want to work the friction zone of your clutch, where it is diminishing power to the wheel but not outright stopping it. That way you can have more control over the throttle at very low speeds. You'll also drag the rear brake, which will add even more stability to your maneuvering. 7. How do I ride in inclement weather? The answer is safely and cautiously. In rain or, God forbid, snow, hard acceleration or hard braking are much more likely to lead to a loss of traction, so it's imperative to be very, very smooth in the application of both the throttle and brakes. If your motorcycle has a rain power mode, it essentially decreases power and makes it less likely for a loss of traction. Riding in bad weather is also hard on the rider, so you have space to accommodate it. Carrying some waterproof rain gear on your bike can be a total lifesaver if you're caught in an unforeseen storm. It's also important to recognize the way wind chill affects your ride. It may be 70 degrees when you leave for the day, but if it is 50 when you're coming back at night, it is going to feel more like 30 with the wind chill. So always be sure to check the weather conditions if you're going on a long ride from home. Question 8. How do you plan a motorcycle road trip? If you want to go on a motorcycle road trip, planning is key. First of all, try to go with a friend. There is safety in numbers, and having a friend there to help you out is always smart. Second, make sure your route is somewhat planned. Try to familiarize yourself with where it is you're going. This way you can plan the route with the most fun twisties or scenic overlooks. You can also try to avoid areas that are prone to traffic or congestion. Don't just plug the address into Google Maps and assume it'll give you the best route suited for a motorcycle adventure. It's also important to pack supplies. You're going to want to have a toolkit, plenty of water, and something to eat, maybe some rain gear just in case, like previously mentioned, you find yourself riding in a storm. And once you've got your route planned, your supplies packed, you have to figure out how to attach it all to your back. There are lots of options for motorcycle luggage, from factory panniers, luggage racks, or universal tank and tail bags. You'll be a lot more comfortable if you've got things stored in a proper place on your bike instead of just cramming it all in a backpack and calling it good. 9. How do you handle emergencies on the road? Well, before an emergency even happens, make sure you have insurance. This will protect you and your bike in case of an accident. Second, prioritize safety if there is an emergency. Before you run over to make sure your motorcycle is intact, make sure you still have all your appendages. Adrenaline is a hell of a drug and can mask a lot of physical pain in the heat of an emergency. It is always a good idea to let someone know where you're about to be and if you plan on going to be back. So if you end up unconscious somewhere, they can start looking for you. If you're physically unharmed but your bike is not rideable, determine how you will get it home, whether by having someone come with a truck or trailer or calling a tow truck. Companies like AAA usually don't discriminate against motorcycles either, so say you have a mechanical failure somewhere and your bike is not rideable, your existing AAA policies should provide a tow truck if needed. The best plan of action is to try to avoid emergency situations. Ride safely and within your ability. Wear proper gear, ensure your motorcycle is in good operating condition. In the event of an accident with another vehicle, treat it like you would a car accident. Wait for the police, get a police report, and file an insurance claim. And the last question, question 10, how do I improve my riding skills or become a more confident rider? The most important thing to remember is if you develop good habits early on, your skills and ability will come with time and practice. Make sure to take the MSF to begin with, and then don't forget the skills they teach you when you immediately leave. Take things slow, ease into it. If you're nervous, take shorter rides around your neighborhood to familiarize yourself with the bike, then slowly reach out further and further. Recognize that it will take some time and don't rush to be at the same level of your friends or other riders around you. There are plenty of resources online to learn new skills and information about riding, and if you're really serious about becoming a good rider, you can take a supplementary training course. The Motorcycle Safety Foundation has an advanced rider course, or there are courses like Yamaha Champ School or the California Superbike School. If you're really serious about being a good motorcycle rider, it is encouraged to explore track day riding. That way you can push the limits of your ability on your motorcycle in a safe and enclosed environment and learn from some experienced rider coaches. So that wraps it up for today's video. If there are any other questions you have, you can always join up on the Discord at yaminoob.co and ask me questions that way. We have a lot of great information over there for beginners, and it is a great way to get involved in the motorcycle community. Be sure if you like this video and you want all the new beginner content, you subscribe. Fact: the reason the plural version of goose is geese, but the plural version of moose is still moose, is because the aforementioned comes from the Latin language, while the latter comes from the Native American languages, so it doesn't follow the same rules as other words. Goodbye.
Keep watching